Hello, everybody. Welcome to another PowerShell Wednesday. Every single Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, we are here to talk about PowerShell live on YouTube. You can watch us after the fact. I also have a PowerShell podcast that comes out every single Monday. We're almost at 300 episodes. Check that out. And our speaker today is actually going to be on Monday's episodes. You can learn a little bit more. We talk maybe about some secrets here and there as it relates to getting the most out of PowerShell, the community, and even the tool that we're going to be discussing today, that which is called AutomatedLab. And Constantin has spoken about this before. Constantin, welcome to PowerShell Wednesday, my friend.
Hello, guys and girls.
That was wild.
Happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
So can you give us just a little bit, before we get into the talk, what is AutomatedLab and why do people care? Like, what could they get from it?
Mm-hmm. So AutomatedLab is a well-known PowerShell framework for creating lab and test environments. It was especially developed for this, or if you are, for example, a consultant and someone gives you a specific type of problem, you can start up a lab, send the code to the people, and the people can relate to the stuff that you or can test it in their lab, send you the problem back, so send you the code back that they executed, and you can you are very you have smaller problems to relate to the problem that they are having. So that's also something. Or if you are a teacher or so, you have to rebuild 5 let's say a domain controller, a Windows 10 client, a file server, an Azure DevOps server, so very fast for a huge amount of people to that everyone has the same lab environment. That's the tool for you. You can set it up. Yeah, sorry. Mm-hmm.
I said that's a great use case.
Yeah,
that
perfect.
Lab, because I think a lot of us are going to be, if you're learning PowerShell, you might be one of those students who could take advantage of a very simple AD setup that you can tweak with and have no risk of ruining your work environment.
And also, so they have, for example, also a root CA, sub CA, or so a certificate authority that can be very challenging to set up in a test environment. So that's also a cool thing. I will show some of that role stuff that we are talking about later. You can execute this on Hyper-V and on Azure. In my example, I have an Azure VM that I enabled for what is it called? Nested virtualization, and show here some of it. But you can also execute it on your local server, on your Windows 10, on your Windows 11 device, every device that has virtualization based capabilities. And I will show this. I think it's on the site also. You can, I think it's only 3 lines of code to get going with a single VM. So it's really easy, but it can also be very, very, it can also get much complicated if you want to have some labs, for example, with SQL Server, and you want to configure it, and so on and so forth. You want to install software, and everything is working with that tool. Yeah, you require PowerShell or PowerShell 6 and above, or Windows PowerShell. It's working on both platforms. Like I said before, Hyper-V host or an Azure subscription. So if you have an Azure subscription, you make the subscription known to AutomatedLab. There's a command lab for this, and then you can also enroll machines in your Azure subscriptions. The only thing that you need is AutomatedLab, of course, and your if you want to do this on premises, your ISOs. If you enroll it into Azure, you have your machine sizes and so on. AutomatedLab also will come with a huge amount of sample scripts. So they have this concept of a lab sources folder. I will show this in my environment. And in this lab sources folder, there's a folder called sample scripts. So if you don't know nothing about AutomatedLab or just want to get started, they have a ton of sample script with scenarios, with easy labs, with complicated labs, and so on. And also, if you know about the DSC workshop, that's the thing that Raymond and Gail invented. They use AutomatedLab for spinning up this environment that you need for the DSC workshop. So a DSC pull server and some things more. That's the requirement. So you have to have, because then you have problems. If you have another language than ENUS, you will run into problems. You have to have all the ISO files for your operating system as well as software. So if you want to, for example, create a machine with SQL Server or with Azure DevOps or Office or so, you need to have this ISOs or the exe files for installing that. Sorry for the stuttering. Then you have to have a machine that is capable of virtualization. You should have enough RAM for your machines. And yeah, then you have, if you want to have a good experience, NVMe drives or premium SSDs or so to have a good experience with your lab. If you want to run it on Windows, so AutomatedLab supports Windows OSs and also Linux, and so it will run on Windows and on Linux and on macOS. So you have to have this. You have to have at least Server 2012 R2 or Windows 8.1. They lean towards the support cycle of the operating systems. I think it's now a bit newer. So they guarantee on the supported operating system that follow the support cycle. If you want to enroll, for example, a Server 2008, they do not guarantee that the lab will enroll correctly. So just bear in mind. And the recommended OS language again is ENUS. I made that mistake myself. I want to try it on a DEDE. I failed miserably. You get an error. And you have to have admin privileges, because if you run it on a Windows machine, then you have to have some admin privileges, because they relax the CRED SSP and the remoting stuff. Because in AutomatedLab, because it's a lab environment, you can enter, for example, a PS session with CRED SSP, and therefore they have to make some settings, and this allows admin privileges. Linux, nearly the same. They try to support as many distros as they test or as they want, but in this distro jungle of Linuxes, they can't guarantee that it will run on every Linux distro. But Fedora and Ubuntu are tested. You need PowerShell Core 6, SSH, and so on. So if you are on a Linux or a macOS, just follow this and try to install it. If you run into any problems, just open an issue on the GitHub repo. They will help you out, definitely. And then we have the supported product. So that's I think they now they support more, but that was a list that they wrote, I think, a while ago. So you have the whole Windows, the whole SQL Server lineup, Visual Studio, Azure DevOps. Then you have the System Center Suite, ProGet for a PowerShell gallery if you need this. The DSC pull server. You can deploy a Hyper-V lab so you can deploy nested virtualization with this also. Failover clustering you can do, RDS and Windows Admin Center if you want. So it's a really cool suite where someone has made up their mind how to install something. So you just say you want to have, for example, a Azure DevOps server, and someone else did the work to create you the server for testing purposes.
I have a couple questions, Constantine.
Yes.
Okay. So some of the features there that were listed, I was wondering, Windows 11 Home. I think that the Home editions don't work with this because of the requirement for Hyper-V. Like, I don't think the virtualization is that a thing, or am I incorrect on that?
That's totally correct. So you need to have a Windows. So if you're on the Windows space, you need to have a Windows that supports Hyper-V. Windows Home, as far as I know, only supports the only supports some virtualization technologies, but not the Hyper-V. So you have to have at least Windows 11 Pro or Enterprise and so on.
Another question from Morton.
Yes.
Question: are there any plans for expanding the hypervisor platform, or is it sticking with Hyper-V and Azure for now?
That's a very good question. They tried, so they are in the middle of supporting it kind of with KVM, but that's in the early. It's in the early stages. So you stick at the moment with Hyper-V and also with Azure. They had also one on the team that tries to go to VMware, but that was also a thing that doesn't live so long. So you have to have at the moment Hyper-V and Azure at the moment.
All right, another question, last one I think for this little series of questions. Is there any discussion of building international support to AutomatedLab? That's why we aren't using it for internal lab builds.
I think that is a thing that we have to ask the developers, but as far as I know, there is no need, at least for them, to go away from ENUS as a requirement. But if you are more interested, just open an issue or just open the discussion with the developers on the AutomatedLab repo. So if you want to know what this is, I think let's go to the edit on GitHub. Let's go here. Oh, I have to sign in. Sorry for this. GitHub. Sorry. .com/AutomatedLab/AutomatedLab. Not lab. Yeah, this is the, I zoom in a bit. This is the official repo for AutomatedLab. So it's a completely open source tool. And yeah, if you want to open an issue, you're always free. They respond very fast and give you an answer.
And I got to say, while we're here, shout out to them. Shout out to the maintainers. It's awesome.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Any other questions before we continue?
I think we're good for now, but I'm going to keep track. If anyone has any more, as always, any question is welcome. If you don't know what we're talking about, you can ask it in the chat. And if it's not super relevant, we can answer it there, or I can bring it up here and answer it. So there's no stupid questions here.
Okay. Yeah, definitely not. So you can ask at any time. So good. So let me change to my VM. So I've made an Azure VM, and in Azure you can make virtual machines that are capable of doing nested virtualization. So I've done this. So I have to prepare something to make AutomatedLab work for me, and that's, I think, a 5-minute block, and then we can start with first lab. So if you want to install AutomatedLab, you have to or you can install it with either the PowerShell gallery, or you can download the MSI from the GitHub. I've done it with the PS Resource get. So if you just do install PS Resource, AutomatedLab, install PS Resource Pester. So if you are an older build, and mine is Server 2025, if you are an older build, you have to have Pester updated, because AutomatedLab will execute Pester tests to check if the lab is developed or is deployed correctly. If you have a older build of Pester, so let's say Pester v4, they will give you a warning that Pester needs to be installed in order for execute the test correctly. Then I make sure that I'm opt out of the telemetry. So AutomatedLab does have some telemetry. They will send an anonymized data to them on how long the labs are running, how many machines are in there, and so on and so forth, but no personal data. But I stick to the telemetry opt-in false. It's not enabled by default, so you have to have it enabled if you want to give them some telemetry data just for knowledge. Then if you want to check if the PowerShell reporting is set up correctly for AutomatedLab, there is a commandlet for this. It's called enable lab host remoting -force. then it will check if everything is ready for AutomatedLab. If it's not ready, then it will ask you some questions to relax this and do this, and you have to give your consent. After this, you have to have so if you install it via MSI, I installed it via MSI, but that's my demo from the PowerShell Conference Europe 2024 when I did a talk about AutomatedLab. I installed it from PowerShell the PowerShell gallery, and you have to do the new lab sources folder. You will give it a drive letter, because if you don't give it a drive letter, it will automatically install it on C, and C is not the best option, so you have to have a different drive, and in my case it's drive letter E. If you execute this, you will get the following folder structure that you please not change, because then you break some things in AutomatedLab. You will get the lab sources folder here, and inside of the lab sources folder you have this folder structure here. And
we can't quite read the names of them.
let me check if I can do some zooming.
If not, easy way to work around would be to open up the folder in VS Code.
Okay.
That way you can,
let's do this then. Let's do file, add folder to workspace. Let's do lab sources, and let's do this. Okay, perfect. So yeah, here, that's my old presentation here. So I think it's now better to see it.
Perfect.
So you have here a lab sources folder, and the only folder that is interesting for us at the moment is this ISOs folder. Inside of the ISOs folder, you have to put all your ISOs that you want to install. So you can do eval versions. In my case, I downloaded from my MSDN subscription, but you can use also the Windows 10 ISO as eval, or the Windows Server 2022, 2025 eval versions that you can download from Microsoft. So you don't have to have your fully licensed stuff and so on. Also, if you have some SQL Server and some other ISOs, just put them into the ISOs folder. That's the folder where all ISOs should go. If you read the README, here you have place all ISOs. Should find automatically in here. Then we have custom roles. I think we don't touch that topic today, but just for a short summary what it is. You can write your own role to extend the capabilities beyond roles. So if you have a specific use case that is not there in a role, you can write your own PowerShell script, deploy it to the machine, and that's a custom role. So just for summary, but I think we will not touch on this. Then we have what is called post-installation activities. So if you, for example, have a domain lab, or if you want to have a domain lab, and you want to have some sample data in it. So for example, some sites or some users or group, they already have here some scripts that you can, if you can, that they can install during the lab enrollment. Here's the sample scripts that I was telling earlier. Here they have some Azure stuff, they have some Hyper-V stuff, they have some scenarios, workshops, and so on. So these are all the scripts that they are handing you over to understand AutomatedLab better, to copy and paste, and so on. Software packages. I will show that. Sorry for this. I will show this later. I have downloaded 7-zip to install it on another on a lab machine. So if you have some software packages that you want to install on machines, just put it in the software packages, and then that's the folder that AutomatedLab wants you to put software in. And the tools folder is also a cool thing. Everything that you pull into the download or save into the tools folder, it will be copied automatically to every lab VM that you deploy. So for example, the sysinternals tools are all on every machine. So if you want to have something else on your machines that you want to have on every machine. When you want to execute something, then put it into the tools folder. I think that's it for lab sources. So let's just go to the not to this. Then we'll go to this one. And then I don't know. Andrew, Fred was with his PowerShell framework here at the PowerShell Wednesday. I don't know.
I don't know either. We've talked about it many times. I don't know if we've done a full deep dive on the config of whether it's a podcast or here, but yeah, feel free to cover it.
So everyone, so I think everyone knows Fred's PS framework. If you do not, PS framework is a cool collection of things that you need or that you have to have in your modules or scripts. One thing is logging. And the other thing is that what we are seeing here is the configuration system. So in AutomatedLab is tied on the configuration system. So you can go and set get PSF config -module AutomatedLab, and you will see every config setting that you can change. In my case, because I wanted to have on a different ladder, I have to do some changing to the root folder, to the progress, to the product key files, and so on, and also to the VM path. So if I deploy a VM through AutomatedLab, it will create what it's called AutomatedLab -VMs folder, and in this VMs folder, it will save all the base images and all the VM files. And to persist that on the machine, you have to pipe it to register PSF config that it will be also available during the next reboot and so on, so that you persist your configuration. So next thing is I have to prepare the networking, because I have my Azure VM with nested virtualization enabled, and I want to have internet with my machines. I have to have what it's called a NetNut and so on. So I created some switches beforehand. So if you look here in the virtual switch manager, we have here, sorry for being a bit small, we have the net switch, we have the ADNet switch, and we have the router switch that we don't need anymore. But we have prepared already some switches. If you don't want this, you can also make AutomatedLab to create them during the deployment. But because I have to have DHCP enabled, that we have automatic IP address assignment, so I have to have it. So I have to make it. I have to create this beforehand. So I will call this switch and give it an IP address. That's here. Then I will execute this. This netnet thing is that we have internet access, so that the machine nuts the traffic to the Azure stuff and so on. And then, because I have a DHCP v4 scope executed or DHCP server running, I will create some scopes that I have automatic IP address assignment, and then I will also assign the DNS server and the router that the machines are already also have internet access. If you have a normal server or a normal Windows 11 machine, you don't have to do this, because you have normally your standard switch that is on every virtual or on every local environment. Just use this, and then you are good to go. So that's only my special environment stuff. Questions about this, or should I continue?
No question.
Okay.
Mild observation. So
Okay.
if people are watching this and they're like confused, they've never configured it, they maybe aren't that strong in routing.
Mhm.
I think what you said earlier, obviously there's code right here. You can just copy and paste and maybe tweak a couple things.
Yeah,
But
correct.
also on the AutomatedLab repo, you were mentioning there's some other starter scripts you can use. And I recommend that. If you're doing it for the first time, just run a starter script, see how it goes, and then tweak it from there. Copy, paste.
Correct. So just to give a glimpse, we go to the sample scripts and go, I think, to Hyper-V. and go to single lab. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Not single this one. Where is it? It's not in Hyper-V, I think. Then it's in introduction. Let's see. Yeah, this one. Single Windows 10 client internet facing. That's the thing that these are the 4 lines that you have to have a labs. So you start with a new lab definition. You give the lab definition a name. It can be ABC or so. You need this for later importing your lab and so on. You tell it which virtualization engine it will be on. So you can Hyper-V or Azure are the 2 parameters or the 2 values that you can have with this parameter. Then you have to have a virtual network definition, and in our case, you have this default switch that is standardly available on all Windows 11 and on premises builds, also on Windows Server and so on. And then you have to have some Hyper-V properties. So you have to tell AutomatedLab that is an external switch, and the adapter name in this case is Wi-Fi, but normally it goes to your Ethernet if you have a server or so. And then AutomatedLab knows about this default switch. So it tries to create it, but it say, okay, it's already there. I don't have to do anything, but it will acknowledge it. And if you then add a lab machine definition, give it a name of client, give it some memory, give it the operating system that you want, and also give it a network. Then AutomatedLab will automatically assign the machine to this network that you provided here in the network definition. And then install lab. And then AutomatedLab will create the machines, will do base imaging, and so on. So that's 4 lines of code to deploy a single VM. And that's like if you go to the introduction 01 single Windows 10 client internet facing. Good. So let's go to my example, what I understand with a simple lab. So I created a variable which is called lab name with a ps-vat simple lab. I created a new lab definition like we saw earlier. And then I make use of something that is what is called PS default parameter values. PS default parameter values is a hash table that is that you can define in PowerShell, that's built in PowerShell, where you can add, or where you have to have your commandlet and then colon and then the parameter of this commandlet and then your value after the colon. If PowerShell then executes, for example, at lab definition, you don't have to provide a network every time, because it knows, okay, this is a default parameter. So if here, for example, I don't have to have network in my parameter list because it will be added after every deployment. So that's the cool thing with default parameter values. So I will give it the network, I will give it the tools path, the operating system. In my example, I will deploy Windows 11 Pro. I give the machine, or every machine that I deploy, 2 GB of memory. And in my case, I will add the lab machine definition, which goes to my net switch. I will give it the internal type, and I give it my network card that I have in my server. So the vEthernet NAT switch, for example. And this is my address space. If I don't provide this, AutomatedLab will create one for me. So you don't have to provide anything. If you don't want to have a special network or a special address space, you can leave it totally to AutomatedLab. AutomatedLab will do this for me, because but I have a DHCP server. I have to have this. Yeah, then I will do a I have a new lab network adapter definition. So I define the network card of my virtual machine that's tied to this virtual switch, and it will use DHCP. So it will ask Okay, do I have a DHCP server? Yes. Okay, then give me the information, or the IP address, the gateway, the subnet mask, and so on. Again, you don't need this if you are normal. If you're on a normal Windows 11 machine, as you saw before in the sample script lab. And then I tell it, okay, this one has to have simple lab Win 11 in the name. It will have this network adapter, and I add a lab machine definition. Then I install lab. So I install the complete lab. And then we have a show lab deployment summary. So this will tell you everything about your lab, how to interact with your lab, what machines were deployed previously, what's the passwords, and so on. Because I don't have anything on my screen that's passwords, you can have this in your in your lab deployment summary if you want. To check it out, I have created here the whole log file for the lab deployment. That we can go through this. I will start the machine. I will start the machine after this to show you that it exists. So just go over this. Yeah, here you see it will go to the AutomatedLab VMs. It will add the new machine definition. Then it will estimate how many drive space I will need. Then, yeah, here. Then they will create the virtual networks. Then you will say, okay, network switch already exists. No changes will be made. Then they will create the base image. So the AutomatedLab works. It will not create a hard drive for every machine. They will work with differentiating disks. So they have one image, then they deploy a VM, and they put a differentiating disk on this that they need less space, and also that they can start with a what is called golden image to have every Windows 11, Windows Server XX with the same image as a starting point. Then they were checking if you have to have additional disks. So if you say, for example, I need on my VM a second or third disk or so, you can do this. In this step, they will be created, and then they add it to the host file, creating the virtual machine, starting the virtual machines, and installing some RDS certificates. Here are all the PESTA tests. So they are running also only the general tests. And here you have your lab deployment summary. So it shows you it took, for me, 14 minutes to create the machine. You have this address space. You have this machine. Here is your password and your administrator. And here are the commandlets that you can use to interact with the VMs. So you can, for example, say invoke lab command. That's the same as invoke command, but with the relaxed settings that you can use it to communicate with your AutomatedLab VMs. You have enter lab peer session, so just enter peer session, but again with the relaxed settings. You have install lab software package that you can install software. You have install lab Windows feature that you can install if you are on a Windows server, for example. You can install IIS or so if you want. You can create checkpoints, you can restore it, and so on and so forth. And you also can do get lab internet file to download files from the internet and place it to the lab sources folder. So that's in a nutshell a simple log file of a lab.
So, Constantine, I got a couple questions, but
yes.
While we're on this, from what I'm getting here, AutomatedLab, it seems like the logs are actually incredibly helpful, even if you are not troubleshooting something. It looks
Correct.
like there's getting started kind of thing. So this is a little bit more helpful than what I traditionally see in a log file.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's telling you about every step. So even if you install, for example, SQL Server, it will tell you, yeah, I will install C++, I will install SSMS, I will install my sample database, I will roll out this, I will roll out this. So it depends on how your verbose you get in your your role or in your custom role, AutomatedLab can show every messages that you want. Good. So let's start a lab. So I import module AutomatedLab. AutomatedLab.
We go a little bit bigger.
Okay. Yeah. Still. Yeah. Like this.
Boom. Brilliant. I love it.
Okay. Good. So let's see if it's imported or if we see. Can take a bit because AutomatedLab consists of many modules. So it's like AC. So if you do install PS resource or install module or AutomatedLab, this is just a wrapper module that will download all the other modules. So if you want to work with a lab, you can just type import -lab. Then you have to have the parameter name, and then you can tap through your labs that you created. I just want to have the simple lab, and then I want to use the parameter, what is it, no validation, to skip the validation that AutomatedLab normally uses. And then I can say, for example, get a lab VM. My get lab VM, I can check, okay, I have this machine in my lab. If you have roles or if you are in a domain, it will show everything about this. So if I want to start this, start lab VM. If I want to start a specific, or if I want to start some roles or so, they have, if you want to say only start the root domain machines, then they will start the root domain machines and so on. And you can provide the computer name. In my case, I can just type, I think, start lab VM. And if I watch now my Hyper-V, let's see, no, it does nothing. Then I have to have start lab VM -all. And now it works. So now you see the machine is starting here. And we can, for example, connect. I can also do, I think it is connect lab VM, I think. Ah, yeah, okay. So then I have to provide the computer name. Let's do Control C. Dash computer name, what is it called? Simple lab Win11. They will provide me with a remote desktop connection where I have to log in, of course, but I don't have to create the RDP file for myself. Just use connect lab VM, computer name, then you're good to go. So, and yeah, it will log in with the administrator credentials and I can start working with my Windows 11 VM. That's all for a simple app. And you see, you have also what it's called BG info, where you have to have your host name and your machine information that you need for working with a lab. That's also a cool thing that they invented, or that they added to the product. That's the first lab. Any questions?
There are some questions. Are they directly related to this? They might be a stretch.
Let's
How
see.
long does it take to spin up a new lab? Let's say it's just one simple server. How long would you estimate?
It depends on the fastness of the machine and what do you want to have. In my case, it took about 15 minutes because I have to create the base images and so on. But on my personal machine, I think one machine 10, 12 minutes or so.
Nice.
When I did my PS-Conf.eu lab, install a cluster with SQL Server on it, I think it ran 35, 45 minutes or so. Then I have a full working lab with my failover cluster and my SQL Server. If you do this manually, it will take a bit more time. I think so. So, another question, or can I continue?
I think that was most of them for now.
Okay.
Yes, we're good to go.
Let's see if this will stop. If it's not stopping, I don't know why. Normally you will say stop lab VM dash all, and then it will, well, okay, let's do shut down this thing. Okay, perfect. It fails to, okay, now it's stopping. Perfect, nice. Okay, perfect. Good, let's run to a more complex example. I also have the logs for this then. This is the domain lab that I have. So I have created a lab with a simple domain controller and with a client. So let's say we have a new lab definition again. We have here our network definition. Here we have the root domain controller. We have here our lab adapter definition. I created a separate DHCP scope for this. Then I have the domain lab DC name, and I have the roles. That is the thing of AutomatedLab. I have the roles of root DC. The root DC AutomatedLab knows that it has to install a domain controller. That is just one line, and it will be a domain controller. If you want to have some post-install activity stuff that I showed earlier about the prepare root domain and child domain and so on, you just give it the parameter post-install activity, and it will create a machine that will execute the script before. And then I have a simple member server that will have also that will run server 2025. Sorry, I think I will go fast to get some to get me something to drink. Sorry for this.
I will entertain the audience. Hello, people. Welcome to the Comedy Hour. I've been practicing stand-up lately, so I'm going to try some new jokes on you today. No, I'm not. That's not going to happen. But yeah, hello, everybody. I would love it if I just looked down and my mic was muted and I was just talking to myself. That would have been great.
So
oh my gosh, welcome back. You know, I told some hilarious jokes. I did some stand-up. It landed very well. So I'm glad you're back, man.
Sorry,
Thank
cool.
you.
Good. We have the same at lab machine definition. We do, in this example, we do 2 lab machines, and the same with show lab deployment summary. What is the log for this? The log for this is domain lab. If we go here, here you see there are 2 machines that are added to the lab, with one having this roles root DC. So AutomatedLab knows, okay, role root DC, perfect. They will estimate 4 gigs now, and then they start deploying. In this case, we don't have to create any base images. We create the machines, and then AutomatedLab knows, okay, I have to deploy a root domain controller first, so I only switch all root domain controllers on. I don't switch on the member servers. I just install the root domain controller. So machines with root domain, with root DC role to be installed, this one, they waiting for the machines to start up correctly. They deploy the Active Directory. They restart the VM after this. They wait for the Active Directory to start up. Then we will get some weird error. I have to ask the developers what this is. I don't know what this is. And then after this, the domain is there. You have starting remaining machines. They start the member server. They join it to a domain. They install the RDS stuff. They execute the pasta tests now for the root DC, because they are annoying. They have to check, because they install a root DC. They have to check that the root DC is deployed correctly, that everyone is run correctly. And the same goes for here. You have now here, because my domain was ch-local, and here we have now my domain lab DC and my domain lab MS with the roles of root DC and so on and so forth. So just you wonder, how does the member server know to join the domain? That's really cool. I added to the PS default parameter values. You have a domain name parameter on the AutomatedLab machine definition that is called ch.local. In case of a root DC, it knows, okay, the domain should be called ch.local. And if you have a member server, which is not a domain controller, it knows, okay, please join the PC to ch.local. You don't have to do anything to join the machine afterwards. So if I start that lab now, so I go with import lab dash name and scroll through. That's the domain lab. Perfect. If I do no validation, you see this. It will validate the lab definition. It will check if everything is there. And you see we have 2 machines now. If I say start dash lab VM dash all, it will start both lab VMs. In my case, this one is starting the domain lab DC and the domain lab member server. And to prove that the machine is actually domain controller and the other machine is domain joined, I will start the Active Directory users and computers and show it. And this lab, let me check the time on the lab, took, with my machine, it's not the fastest machine, it's just a 4-core 16 gig machines. It took 31 minutes and 20 seconds to deploy 2 machines with different operating systems, make it a domain controller, add the member server to the domain. 31 minutes. So just wait a bit. And then I think I'm totally in time because I have one more lab to show you to install software. And then we can open up the floor to questions, I think.
Awesome.
So let's see. Here you see the local administrator is also then made the domain administrator. So the password is the same. So let's see. Just one moment. Yeah, we have here the same. And if I now present it with a start menu, that's hopefully shown up. Yes, dsa.msc. We have to search a bit. Sorry for this, but yeah, that's how servers are.
Remember the old days of the start menu? Oh man, I won't ruminate, but
so we have it here, and if I open then my DSA and it's opening here, if I go to my domain, that's the domain name, and if I go to computers, here I have my domain lab MS. It's joined. I don't have to do anything.
we'll take your word for it. It's a little too tiny to read, but we see a line.
Yeah.
There's something there.
Yeah, there's or I can prove it to you something else. I can open a terminal and type get AD computer star, and then I think it will work then. So let's see. I can zoom in on the terminal. I can zoom in on the terminal because I have Server 2025 and Server 2025 has Windows Terminal support. Oh my God, it's a bit too big. Sorry for this. So let's see. Come on. So get the oh no, it's German. It's English keyboard. Get AD computer filter star. Well, no, do this one. Come on.
Ooh.
Filter star. So what is a star on a German keyboard? I don't know. I have to check. No, there it is. There it is. I think it's this one. No, it's this one. This one, yeah. Yeah. And you see here I have my domain lab DZ and I have my domain lab MS. That is in the computers container.
Way easier than manually setting it up.
Definitely. Yeah. And just imagine if you want to have this 50 times, just see what a time what a time-consuming process this is. Just execute 50 PowerShell scripts and perfect. Good. Then I will stop lab VM -all. So let's see if this works now. If it's not working, then yeah, let it be. We will start with the last lab. I want to show how to interact with a machine. That's again a simpler lab. We have a simple Windows 11 Pro VM that is again in the NetSwitch network. It calls install SV Win11. We will install the lab, and if you don't have the 7-zip on hand, for example, you can just call get lab internet file provided with the UI, provided with the destination path. Then it will download it to the lab sources software packages. Just $lab sources is a very cool global variable in AutomatedLab. It will tell you where your lab sources are. So if you just type here $lab sources, it will tell you your lab sources that directory. So just provide this / software packages, and it's a calculated variable. Why I have this in my session here? Because I do import module AutomatedLab. Because of this, AutomatedLab knows where my lab source directory is. Good, and I just do install lab software packages. I don't have to do the command line as I learned yesterday. If you have a MSI package, for example, they will start it with Q and write a log file and so on. If you have exe or so, you have to provide the command line to install it silently. So that's also a must. If you install a lab software package, it has to be a silent installation, because if you can't interact with the command line, correct? that's a bit problematic. So it has to have a silent installation. So in my case, I installed 7-zip on the machine. You can here with the parameter computer name, you can provide an array of computer names, or I think you can tell it to run. You can tell it to run, I think, on all machines. So just do a computer name and then in braces do get lab VM -all or get lab VM, and then it will install it on all machines. How this will look in the log. So I think the typical installation log is known now, I think. It will run the pester tests, and here you see the software package install portion. So I will install the software package, lab sources, software packages, and so on the machine. Install SV Windows 11. It will copy the files to the machine and waiting for the completion. And I have one dot because it's really fast, and then it will return you back the installation is done. And it took me 13 minutes for this to roll out. So let's see if our lab is down. Perfect. Then I can import lab-name. What is it? Install software lab. And start lab VM-all. Okay. It's now running. And let's see if we connect to it. I can show you the start menu that it's installed. And that's, I think, a short overview what you can do with AutomatedLab. You can get as complicated as you want. I think we have 4 minutes. I will show you my lab from PowerShell Conference Europe from the 2024 talk that I have with me, that you can see how complex it can get to install a failover cluster and so on. Just to nerd a bit out. So if I go to the start menu and go to here, recommended 7-zip file manager, it is here. So it is definitely installed. If the install executes correctly, the MSI or the install files will get deleted off the machine after it. So they will be copied to the C drive directly. So if we open here the C drive, for example, was it C? Here 7-zip is there. Okay, 7-zip will stay on the machine. So you have to delete it by yourself if you want this. But you can do, for example, then a invoke lab command dash computer name dash script block, and then you can do remove item and so on. So that's totally fine. Good. Stop lab VM dash all. Are there any questions, or should I go to the more advanced lab just to show a glimpse what you can do with AutomatedLab?
I didn't see any recent questions. I think let's take a glimpse before people have to go back.
Okay, perfect. So I do the AutomatedLab way. So okay, let's scroll up. So this lab has it has 275 lines to install a failover cluster with a SQL Server on it, enable storage spaces direct, deploy scale out file server, and so on. So it's a very complex lab, but let's go here. So you have your network. So you have your network definition. You have your domain controller. In this case, I show how to provide IP addresses to the machines directly, the gateway and the DNS servers. So you can also do this, but normally AutomatedLab will take care of this. Here I have my lab DC, which is a 2022 data center with one processor, the root DC role, 2 gigs memory. And then we have the cluster roles that I have here, because so there is a role of failover node. But if you want to configure this role further, there is this command get lab machine role definition. You provide the role, and then you will provide the properties. In my case, it is cluster name and cluster IP. Or if you want to enroll a SQL Server 2022, you can provide, for example, this stuff. And you do it, and this is all roll and roll and roll and roll. Then you have here, it is the thing if you want to add some disk definitions to it. So if you want to create some data disks, you just have to provide the disk name parameter with your names of the disk definitions that you need. In my case, I need the second failover node, and then I install the lab. So that's and let me check. No, I don't have the logs with me, because this log will have a bit more to say. Is especially my custom roles that I created and so on. So just a glimpse. You don't have to understand everything that's here, because that's a much more sophisticated and more complex lab. But just to see that what you can do with AutomatedLab. And I think we are totally on time.
Awesome.
Are there any other questions?
Let's let Jake cook a little bit. You know, he's a bit of a nerd for this kind of thing. Stevie as well. There's a lot of fans of AutomatedLab, which I think speaks to how helpful it is. It's the same kind of thing for me as PowerShell scripts. Like, you want to solve a problem and maybe iterate over time. So you write a script and it goes with you as you encounter new problems. Same kind of thing with labs, but even doubly so, because as an IT professional, you're going to need a lab environment for this job, for the next job, and if you could take that definition with you, maybe you're going to forget about it for 2 years and get a new computer. Well, if you have that same script and you back it up to your GitHub, it's no biggie, it's easy, and you're back to learning, and you're not worrying about the lab, because most of us don't really work in VMs all the time. Like, we don't manage that infrastructure necessarily. So just get it done quick and get to learning something new.
Correct. And if you want to have my sample scripts, I think, Andrew, I have sent you the
Yes, check this.
GitHub, and I think so. If you want to have my sample scripts, I will merge the. I think they already merged. I will check it after the Wednesday to merge them into my presentations repository. And yeah, if you have any questions, contact me on LinkedIn or Blue Sky or so. Open an issue on the AutomatedLab repo.
Definitely.
Everything is allowed.
Boom. And you know what? If this wasn't enough, if you want more, if you want to learn what makes Constantine tick, well, my friends, I've got you covered. Monday on the PowerShell podcast, it is my friend Constantine. You will be joining us. We had a fantastic chat. It's actually already recorded. Time's
Nice.
a weird thing. I don't know what's real anymore, but yeah, we actually already did talk, and it's coming out Monday. Check it out. Thank you so much, Constantine, for joining us today and sharing some knowledge about a very cool project that if you haven't dabbled with it at least once, you should already have a solution in place that does the same kind of thing. You probably don't. You might as well check it out.